Well, hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Unlocked Show. I'm your host, Tracy Wilson, and it is an absolute pleasure to be here with you guys this morning. It is a beautiful day here on the Gold Coast of Australia, and I have got a bit of a treat for you guys all the way from Texas in the USA. My guest today is going to really help you guys to identify, what is it that really successful entrepreneurs do that other unsuccessful or not as successful entrepreneurs tend to ignore. With his over 35 years of experience, he's been growing a really highly successful business. His own business, he's grown multiple other businesses. He's worked for the likes of PricewaterhouseCoopers, and he actually grew a software company and grew that from like a tiny wee company of just 2 employees all the way up to 400 employees, and then was brought out by a company called Intuit Incorporated. He helps thousands of business owners all over the world now to help them gain time back. And I'm going to say, we had a little conversation beforehand. He helps them chase their wives to really amazing resorts all over the world because they have the time and the freedom and the means to do so. Now, he did not think I was going to say that, but absolutely have to. I think it's a whole lot of fun. He's also a speaker and author, and he's also been noted in John Maxwell's 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. And if that doesn't tell you something, I don't know what is. He's been recognized all over the world by people for the amazing things that he does and the way in which he goes about helping other entrepreneurs like you and I to really grow successful businesses. So that being said, welcome to the show, Tim Redmond. It is fantastic to have you here.
Oh, Tracy, this is great. You are contagious with your energy.
Thank you. Well, I hope so. It is 7 a.m. For most people, they know that we usually do a live show, but today, on the odd occasion, I'll do a recorded show for very special people just like you. So guys, I need some matchsticks in my eyes. It's 7 a.m. in the morning here in Australia, and it's not typical for me to be doing a show at this hour of the morning. So let's kind of get stuck into this, because I think you are going to have some amazing things to share. I want to know, Tim, going back, and I know you've been in business for a long time, 35 odd years is giving you a breadth of experience. What was it that made you sort of take a turn from working for other people such as PricewaterhouseCoopers, creating your own, business in the technology sector, to then shifting and going down the path of actually coaching and mentoring others to run really successful businesses? How did that change happen?
Great question. Yeah. So I had in my mind, Tracy, a desire to consult, a desire to grow businesses, and a desire to actually even buy businesses to grow them. And so I'm doing all that now. Even when I was working for other people, I had that vision in mind. And every job I worked in a business, I always was involved in helping to build the organization. And so I've been just growing companies since I was 25 years old. And so it's always been a desire. And it's just, what really got me into it is when we sold our business to Intuit. That's the makers of QuickBooks, Quicken, don't know. And after I served them for a little bit, we transferred 22,000 of our clients over to their fold. I started traveling around training on leadership and on how to grow your businesses. And I was talking to business groups and pastor conferences and political groups and just all kinds of different leader groups all over. And inevitably, when I would talk about growth, they'd come up and ask me and say, well, do you offer coaching? And I said, well, sure. What's your question? And I'd go in. Sometimes I spent an hour with them, not realizing that that is a real profession here, that there are some companies with a multi-million-dollar business like we are now, that do the coaching. So I remember thinking, I'm doing all this traveling around. And so about 10 years ago, I shifted the focus. I still do some speaking, but I shifted the focus to build a coaching business and created the systems in there, and then started hiring people. And now I've got 7 coaches. We got about 150, 160 clients that we work with on a weekly basis. And we're really getting set to grow even significantly more here. So having a lot of fun with that.
That is fantastic, and that often is the case, isn't it? You are in your normal profession, and over time people start asking you all of these questions. And I want to say, for those of you that are out there listening right now, I want you to take real notice of what Tim's just said there, because more than likely you are being sought out for that sort of information too. If people are sort of tapping you on the shoulder and asking you a number of questions, that's usually a pretty good sign that you've got something to offer other people by way of coaching or mentoring in some way, shape, or form. And as Tim said, that is a real paid, and I'm going to say highly paid profession that some of you may wish to go down. Yeah, it's a super important piece.
It's really, I remember one guy came up to me after I gave a presentation. He says, you're smarter than you look. And I want you to be my coach.
Thanks for that.
And so he said, but I don't want to grow my company. And I said, well, I don't think I want to coach you if you don't want to grow. He goes, well, no, I'm $5 million company. I'm making $800,000, but I don't want to work any more hours. And I said, well, let me help you out here. Let's grow your company only if you can reduce your hours. And so we literally, we almost doubled his revenue. We more than doubled. We almost tripled his profits, and we cut his hours down by half. He was working less than 20 hours a week here with it. So, but you never know. It's nothing like having another set of eyes on your business. I mean, I believe in it so much, Tracy, that I've got 4 coaching companies helping me right now on various aspects of helping to fine tune the different aspects of our business. So.
It's that old saying, right? Sometimes you can't see the wood for the trees. You need somebody, an outsider, to give a different perspective, to ask very specific questions, et cetera, that allows you to expand and grow your mind. So one of the things that I think is really, there's so many questions about this, but I know that a lot of our listeners, they may have heard that it's like they're listening to us talk about these numbers, $5 million and multi-millions, and they're sitting there thinking, God, man, if I could only just get to $1 million, that would be amazing. And often we hear this saying that the first million is often the hardest. So can we, can we talk about some of the things that maybe some people who are listening today that have got smaller, they might be solopreneurs. What are some of the things that they could do that you typically see, people who are become really successful, because everybody starts somewhere, they become really successful over time, but there's certain things and patterns that you see that these people do frequently, these people who are successful, that maybe some of the struggling ones, they get stuck in that mouse wheel of never really making it. What do you see there?
Well, there's several things. One is sometimes we look at our business and it's being so small and insignificant that sometimes we don't pour energy into it, like a massive amount of energy into it that's desperately needed. I was working with my son, and he was starting an online fitness coaching program, and he's played college football, and he's got a body like a Greek statue, but he stared at that business for 2 months, and the business stared at him back. And I said, this is, you're not going to win a staring match, with a business. I said, this business is starving for your energy. And I said, you've got to just put heart and soul in, just like you're prepping for football season. You've got to just pour energy into this. And I remember us at the beginning of the month saying, why don't we see if we can get 20 new signups here and by the end of the month? He goes, Dad, that's impossible. I said, well, if you think so, it's definitely true, but let's just pretend it's not impossible. Let's just go for it. And he poured heart and soul into it, poured energy into it. And he finished the month at 21 new clients. Boom, got it. So number one is don't get lazy. Don't get weary. Don't get worn out. It just needs a lot. It's like raising an infant. They just want. And it's like, you can't even talk yet. I'm still pouring into you. And, they're cute, of course. but they make messes, and it's just, so it's like nursing a baby. You got to just pour tons of effort. You mothers out there know what I'm talking about. I'm one of 11 kids. Okay. My parents love having sex, or they love kids, or both. I don't know which, but I mean, we had kids all over the place when I grew up. And, but it's just pouring heart and soul into it. Number two, Tracy, is a lot of times people just think, well, 1,000 other people do this business, and they look at their business kind of as a commodity, and they don't realize the uniqueness of their fingerprints are all over this business, and that's what makes it unique. And so they're lacking what I call what Seth Godin 20 years ago wrote a book on this called The Purple Cow. And
Yes.
And they're lacking that unique aspect that makes them stand out. Seth said, you can be like a brown and black and white cow that just blends in, but if you're not remarkable, you're invisible. So you've got to go from invisibility out to stand out remarkability. And that is finding the uniqueness of your business. Why should people buy from you and not your competitor? What special thing do you do that is unique, that's different from other people? Why are you different? Why should people choose you? I remember I was working with this plumber, because we work with a lot of contractors and specialty doctors, healthcare and contractors, home builders and that. But this plumber drove in, and he came in the parking lot with his, is right here in Tulsa, it's Tulsa, Oklahoma. He drove in, and he had this sign on the side of his van that says, "We wear belts." I go, "Why is that?" He said, "Well, plumbers are famous for showing off their butt crack." He said, "We wear belts because we don't want to show off our butt crack." I said, "Okay, so let's make that part of your unique, your Purple Cow part of your unique proposition." So we had the no butt crack guarantee. I mean, it's like, use some humor in what you're doing, right? So people are calling up, laugh, and says, "You're the no butt crack guarantee guy, right?" Yeah. Well, and what's that guarantee? If you see our butt crack, labor's free. Boom, So, what is it that you can stand out? We're just blending in, and we're wondering, twiddling our thumbs, wondering why people aren't calling us.
I mean, I want to ask some, there's a few things that I want to talk about in terms of just those two things, and you talk about energy, right? And that whole concept of what you pour in is often what you get out. Like, you got to fill up that almost that bank account, right? You've got to do that.
Right.
If you give it no love, you're unlikely to get a harvest back from that, right? But it was interesting because I was listening to something else just a couple of days ago, and they talk about this concept of grit. And I think this is the same sort of thing that you're talking about here, is that energy and having the stamina and the to just keep going, just to put into it, pour what you've got into that, not to the point where you burn yourself out, but to the point where you're able to sustain this at a really good rate so that you've got really nice balance. And this concept of grit being that, you, like you say, there are some things that don't always go right. There's some stuff, fall down sometimes. You're going to fail at some things, but it's knowing that you can just pick yourself up and you just keep going, and having that stamina and the grit to just stick at it. Right.
Yeah. There's like a good friend of mine. You probably haven't heard of him, but he made a few extra bucks here. His name is Bill Gates. He started this software company, Microsoft.
Yeah, I don't know who's that.
But anyway, he was telling me, actually, I've never met him, but if he meets me, he's going to love me. I just know it. But anyway, just trying to really impress your people. And I think I lost all of them. I'm sorry. but he said he didn't take a day off in his 20s. And so, I look for, right now, our coaching business continues to go. And now I've got my son trained to run it, and I'm helping out here and there. But my main focus now is I'm looking for owners of businesses who are bored, checked out, no energy, and I'm looking to buy their businesses, and I can buy their businesses cheaper than if I'm buying it from somebody that's energetic, pours everything into it. So, I mean, look, you can be one way or the other. Go for it all the way. Like, burn the ships in the bay. Just make it something that you're going to grow from, or just you know, one guy said, you know, you can't do something half-assed that requires a full-ass effort, you know. So
Yeah.
I hope I didn't turn off any of your folks there with the language there, but you know, come on, like get off.
I mean, it's so true. It's so true. You know, often we expect that, oh, it's just going to grow and run itself. And that just, and I think, you know, if we think back to some of the terminology that has been used in the business industry for some time, you know, passive income, etc., and this myth that's been created that you can create something that requires no effort, and that might work for a very short period of time until such time as it you know, runs out of fuel. So it's an interesting you know, that is a really interesting concept then.
Yeah,
exactly.
Right.
It doesn't work that way, right?
Yeah.
The other is, you know, this concept of your USP, so finding that unique thing. What is so special about you? And I think you make a really good point here, is that often we think it has to be something, oh my God, what could it be? Something amazing. I've got to come up with something. And that story that you told about the plumber, you know, the no butt crack guarantee. I mean, it's so simple. And it's, you know, it's so simple in its form, right? It's true. Some people might want to look at that, but I certainly don't, from a sweaty plumber. But anyhow, you know, so that would be, that is something you can really grab and use with a bit of humor. And often we think we have to be so serious in business, and we lose that sense of humor and that sense of, I'm going to say, realism and connectedness to our audience.
Right. It's very important. You know, if you can't get somebody having a good time, even laughing with you in your presentation when you're trying to sell something here, you know, you're really hurting yourself. Laughing or good-naturedness just opens people up to say, oh, this is friendly and safe. Boom, let's go. So let's not be afraid of getting out there and just really having a good time in doing what you're doing. It doesn't matter if you're cleaning toilets out or unplugging drains, or it doesn't matter. Just heart and soul into it is so huge.
And have a bit of fun, as they say. You know, if you're having fun, you're not working a day in your life, right? You're just enjoying yourself.
That's beautiful.
I want to touch on this too. You talked about your son, right, and him starting his own gym or his own business, and you know, he was saying, "Gosh, Dad, you know, I need to find some new clients, and how am I going to do that?" And you said, "We are going to go and find 20 new clients," and often I know, you know, a lot of particularly new businesses will start out with, "Oh, okay, I've been listening to all these gurus, and I've got to come up with this whiz bang fancy marketing campaign to try and draw in all of these customers and pour a lot of their energy, their time, and their money into trying to do some tactical or special thing that's going to create this magical customers to appear." And I suspect that you actually, the advice you gave to your son was actually a really simple piece of advice. You want to talk us through, like, let's imagine we've got a whole lot of other people listening to the show today that are like, oh my God, if only I could find 20 new clients this month.
Okay.
That would be amazing. What should I do?
Yeah. So here's the thing. I'm gonna lay it on heavy. And if you kick me off the show, you know, and you're disappeared, I understand I went beyond my boundary. Okay. In our company, we built the first 100 clients with cold calling. All right. Simple script. Just short conversation to set up a 10-minute call, to set up an assessment, to bring them into their coaching call. All right. So we had a flourishing business. 100 clients is pretty good. We didn't start there, but it took us a while to build there. But we had a 99.75% rejection rate.
Yeah.
I mean, I had somebody call me the other day, is like, gosh, this is impossible. I'm trying to do this cold calling. And it's like, well, how many people have you called? Well, 5. All right. Well, did you have any interest? Well, one of them was interested, but I don't know if he's going to buy or not. Like, you are just, stop hating yourself. You know, stop hating your wallet. Stop hating your bank account. Get over your fear. get numb to the no and press through. Who you become in the process is even more important than gaining all these clients, whether it's 20 clients or 100 clients. It's just like, yeah, I want to do everything except to have to like talk to people I don't know. I want to do everything except for having to like, get rejected. Well, I think you know what a KPI is, right? And I'm sure that you talk about this in your podcast. KPI is a key performance indicator. Here's a KPI to think about. Measure how many no's you run into in a day. And so we would require our calling staff at those times to make a minimum of 150 calls. And with a 99.75% rejection rate, they could spend 2 days in a row with all no's. And so, but that's where our coaches came from, is learning how to get over their feelings and overcome to master something that they don't want to do, even they hate doing. Here you are going to be coaching somebody to get them to change their habits. If you can't master your own habits, come on, And so who you become in the process is worth the grind, but you've got to learn to grind. I don't know if you guys have Shark Tank down there in that beautiful place here, but Mark Cuban is this guy that owns he's a billionaire at this point here, and he's all about grind. If he doesn't see somebody that wants to grind, he doesn't want to invest in them. And that's where I'm at right now too. In the business I'm looking to buy, I'm either wanting to buy it outright or somebody wants me to buy in with them. I want to look at what kind of grind they got, how much grit they have, as you said earlier, Tracy. And so I just say, lean into it. Success looks messy, and it looks like it's impossible and you want to give up. But if you press through during that time, who you become in that press through moment is who your clients need you to be with even tougher problems.
Absolutely. And like you say, it creates that, each failure, each time you stumble, it creates a harder outer shell for you to be able to deal with the next thing, the bigger thing that's coming your way. Because as I say, bigger business, bigger problems, but you've also become a much stronger person in the process to be able to handle all of that, so that the ability for you to be able to push through becomes easier and easier because you've become that person. I love this conversation because, if I come back to that sense of grit and this research that I've been doing, just like today's show, about, what is the difference between someone who's really successful and maybe those entrepreneurs who don't always see or ignore the things that need to be done to become successful. And this thing of grit, of stamina, of grind, it has come up so many times. And I think it was Stanford University that actually did a study on this to determine, for a whole bunch of different scenarios, what was it that made people so successful? And it actually came down to that one thing. So you're talking about getting over yourself and realizing that 99.9% of the time, or 97.5% of the time, the answer is going to be no. But get used to it, baby, because if you're used to hearing that no, 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 like we did when we were little kids, did you ever take no as an answer? Probably not. Most likely kids don't, right?
Perfect
What do they
illustration.
do? They say, oh, mum said no. I said, okay, I'll go ask dad. Dad says yes, so off I go. That's classic child 101. And
That's so
somehow,
good.
as we grow up, we forget to do that. We forget that, because then what would you do? All right, mum said no, dad said no. Well, some might say, well, you little bugger, you go and ask your grandparents, and they say yes, and that tends to be how it happens. And that's the same thing that we need to do as entrepreneurs in our adult life, is keep asking the question, because as when I used to be a sales coach, to say a no is one step closer to a yes. So you say no, 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 no. Eventually you're going to get a yes. So just
and you get better, and really you're wanting to press through something you're afraid of doing. And to grow a business, it's not all just confidence and everything's just so smooth. It's a messy, progress is messy. And you get dirty and things blow up and you want to go put your head in a pit somewhere and just bury your head in the sand or whatever. So it's just, you've got to just pick yourself up and push yourself forward. Do the thing you're afraid of doing. Do it afraid. It doesn't matter. But if you just keep doing it and you'll get better and better and better at it, who you are 3 months from now is going to be worth the struggle. You're going to look back on it. And now I used to do everything in the company. And now I don't do anything except to look at the key numbers and advise. I meet with my key people and advise them and coach them, but they're actually giving me a report of what's going on. So, but you don't start that way. You gotta be willing to do the tough stuff. And you have to go through something and you may be afraid of doing it. It's like to use a little kid, it's like learning to walk. Little kids learn to walk and they get up on a tripod and then they get up for 2 feet and then boom, their heads bouncing on the concrete. And you think, oh my God, while tears are still going down their face with a big knot, knot on their forehead. They're getting back up again in the middle of their pain and failure. We've got to have that kind of tenacity to grow our business.
Absolutely. And as we're thinking about this, and because you brought up, the concept of your son and that sort of fitness space,
right?
I look at business like that, right? So often when we go and we think, right, I'm going to work out, and we think about, well, what parts of my body will I work out? Well, I want to work on my legs, my butt, my arms, my whatever the case may be, right? We go to the gym and you tend to think about it in that way. What if we actually thought about business in that way? When I'm going into business, the things that I'm going to think about are, my brain, my energy. What am I going to do to exercise my energy muscle and to build up my energy in terms of stamina, in terms of enthusiasm, in terms of what I bring to the table each day. My brain, how am I going to make sure that I feed my brain the right things and keep my mindset in check? And then this concept of resilience. So, building up that muscle of resilience and being okay with rejection, being okay with failure, being okay with mess. All of those things that you've spoken about today really help us to build up that muscle of resilience that enables us to have the tenacity to keep moving forward.
So important. A business is like a mirror. And it forces you to look at yourself. It's a lot like marriage. It's a lot like money. There's certain things in life that just are perfect mirrors where you have to address the issues in your own life, address the issues in your own heart. So don't run away. Embrace it. Get through what you need to get through. Develop what you need to develop, and get done with it and move on to the next step. Here, we're starving for all of you to come out and play. That's really what's going on. We want all of your leadership to show up. We want all of your boldness. We even want your tears, and we even want your pain and your scars. That there's never a wound that's wasted. So just step forward and do it and keep doing it. I won't go into business unless they make a 10-year commitment. Mastery is hugging a thorn bush for 5 years, not for 5 minutes. To hug a thorn bush is painful, but to hug it for 5 years, boy, you'll get mastery at that point. You think, well, God, this guy is sadistic or masochistic. I'm just saying, success is not for the faint at heart. You got to be built up on the inside. You got to get ready to go for it. And you'll be so glad you poured the energy into this and you pressed through your fears. I promise you.
I want to go here now because often, and I think this is also one of the major differences we see with people who are extremely successful and those that kind of struggle along, is that they get help and they get support early on. And you talked about this before. You were saying that, even in my business now, being as, I'm successful, we're turning over, some good dollars. I still have people that come in and advise and give their opinions on the business from different aspects. And
Right.
so having somebody, a coach and a mentor, as early on in the piece as possible, just like you would if you were going to the gym, you could struggle along and try and do it yourself, and maybe you're
So
lifting the
good.
weights the wrong way, but
So true.
you would actually you would get the personal trainer to come and show you how to do it correctly,
Right.
give you the fastest path to success. And in our world, that's what we also want to do, right? Is help people to find the fastest path to whatever success is for them. And like the guy that you were talking about earlier was, hey, I want you to coach me, but I don't really want to grow my business. And you got him to really think about, well, what does success really look like for him? And the success actually look like, well, working less hours. I can afford to make more. I'm happy to do that, as long as it doesn't mean that I have to sacrifice more of my freedom to do so.
Yeah. So that and that was a really interesting client to have. I met him in a church environment where I use biblical principles to share the growth principles, and so I'm not shoving anything down anybody's throat here, but that's where I was, and so he came in there and I remember telling him, I said, well, you got scarcity thinking. He goes, I'm not a scarcity person. I said, I'm not accusing you of that. I said, that thought is scarcity. Scarcity is either or. Either I show up at work on time or I take care of my kid. That's what a victim says. All right. And either I grow my business and work more hours, or I work less hours and don't grow my business. Well, that's a scarcity thought. Abundant thought says and in both. So the abundant thought says, let's grow your business and let's reduce your hours. And so sometimes it does take an expert or a coach or somebody getting alongside you to really help you think through that process to make sure you can embrace it fully. And sure enough, I remember building it. We had a 2-day event that I led at the end of one of the years, and they were just under $9 million, but their net income was like $2.2 million, up from 800,000. It was like, oh my gosh, it's just, and he was only working 20 hours a week, and he only had to work 5 hours a week with the system that I taught him, but he felt guilty and he just stuck around the office a little bit longer just because he felt guilty. But these things, those are realities. You've got to do the hard work, though. You got to be willing to pour it into on the front end.
I want to, you said some interesting things about where you are in sort of your business cycle right now, where you are in an acquisition phase of like, I'm looking for other businesses that I could buy up, grow up, and then potentially, upsell or hand on to another family member, I suspect is what you're looking at doing, and building up this portfolio of business. Yeah.
To make more money, to go to more resorts so I can chase my wife around more.
Chase your wife around. Yeah, totally. I figured that was also on the cards too, which is a great thing to do. So in that sense, I wanted to ask, because again, I want people to sort of see the big picture here of people that are very successful. This is what they do. They will go and say, well, I could start a business from scratch. I could come up with a concept and an idea and start something from absolutely nothing. And maybe I bootstrap it all the way to making a few $1 million. Or I can actually look for something, let's call it a diamond in the rough, where somebody has actually already come up with a concept. Maybe they've had a bit of success, but they're just at the end of their tether and their energy level is just not there anymore and they want out. And then you look at it and go, there's still opportunity in this. Then the heads get rubbed together and you go, there's an opportunity here. I'm going to pick this thing up and run with it. Can you help everybody understand, like, what are some of the specific things you are looking for in a situation like that?
When I buy a company?
Yeah.
Okay. So, so I've already got a system where, when we evaluate the company, we're looking for a team there that can do the majority of the work. Like, I'm not looking for any companies that specialize in lung transplants because there's too much of an expert team on the 3 people on the planet that could do that. But I look for a team. Like I was just looking at a construction company, and we're in the process of making an offer to. They've got a team there, and they've also got growth opportunities. They've already got a good reputation, so I look for that, and that's worth paying more for. And then there's some really clear 30-day non-negotiable things that we're going to do in the company the first 30 days. Then the 30 to 90 days or several things that I've identified. So if those things line up, and then I've got a certain payoff because I don't need the profits from the business. We want to be able to pay off the loan that we may have to take out from the bank to help buy the company. So we want to pay that off in a certain time. So those are some of the checklist items here, but it's always looking for, is this a company that's got people in it that will continue to do the work, and they need some really good leadership, and now a lot of people that may be listening to this, they're looking to buy a business so they can have a job, and job is not this cuss word. It's not this bad word, but I know of one guy that just bought this company, another plumbing company, and it was a $2 million EBITDA. So it's very, very successful profits for about $2 million a year. And he paid about $8 million for it. When he came in there with it, and he's living really reasonable, but he enjoys there's about 50 employees or so there that work in the business, and he enjoys setting up the systems and all that. He doesn't know anything about plumbing, but he knows about business. And so, it's if you're really strapped for cash, you may want to trade your expertise or your time. Or what asset do you have to help work with somebody that maybe does have the money to go in there? Or maybe there is an owner that owns a business, but they're kind of worn out, and you come in there with energy and you say, hey, listen, I want to buy into this much of the business by pouring my heart and soul into it and building it back up. That way it'll be worth more to you, and then I'll have a part in it too. So there's a lot of different ways to do that. But I really look for the team that's in there, and I look for, can I grow this? I need to be able to grow it increase it by 50% in the next 2 years. So that's, very specific. I didn't know how much detail you wanted, because
that's great.
Get super detailed with it. So,
well, I think the key here is, and the reason I asked that question is actually twofold, because I think those that are listening that are thinking, well, maybe I want to I want my own business, or I want to create myself a job. What are my options? Create something from scratch. I can do my own thing. Maybe I've got some skills, some expertise, and experience that I could even teach some people some stuff. So there's that type of consulting business that you could start, or you could start, a brick and mortar type something. Or the other alternative is I can go and purchase something that's already established. Yeah. Now, the two problems that I'm looking at here is actually not that. So we're looking at, these are the two options that I could do. But you want to think about this in the sense that what Tim has just said that he's looking for when he's purchasing a company is, has it got a great team? Has it got some growth opportunity? Has it got a good reputation? I mean, those are all the things that you want to make sure you build into your company. Why? Because it makes it desirable for somebody else to want to purchase it further down the track.
Exactly.
All right. So that makes it more desirable. It gives it makes it interesting for somebody else to purchase. The one thing that makes it very interesting for somebody such as Tim to come in and say, hey, I'm ready to buy this, but I want to buy it at a discounted rate, is the absence of you, the leader. Right? There was a one common factor in what he just spoke about there, was that you as the business owner, maybe you've lost your spark, maybe, circumstances, life happens. There are reasons why you might want to move on. But, in the absence of you and you not being able to build that company up so that it can be managed without you, means that if the time comes when you want to sell it, it's likely that you will you will attract a lower price because of that. So I just
Right.
thought that was an interesting thing for us to be thinking about and to stimulate some thought about. And it actually doesn't matter whether you are starting out in business or you are a lot further along the track.
Right.
Exit strategy and what you are going to do further down the track is vitally important at every step of the process. That's my
Absolutely.
belief. Mhm.
Absolutely. And yeah, if the business is completely reliant on the owner, there's no, you know, and the owner doesn't want to work there anymore, then
It's
it
curtains.
really cheapens the business. And so
Mhm.
what we do in our coaching is we are always making the business more valuable because someday it may be sold. I usually tell my business owners, don't be so quick to sell it. If it's a goose that's laying a golden egg for you, learn how to have it run with very minimal amount of your time. And so we set up processes for that, like I did with my one friend I told you about. And but yeah, it's something that you want to make sure that in any business you're working on, you don't want to be the star of the show unless it's a
Mm.
a show in Las Vegas and you're the one that sings, But I mean, if for a business, you want to be able to be invisible and not the business to rely on you to have to be there. Leadership is really
Mm.
tested in your absence, not in your presence.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And that's a really good thought to, something to ponder, that leadership is tested in your absence, not in your presence. So I know that you spent quite a bit of time writing a book, The Power to Create.
Yeah.
Want to tell us a
Yeah.
little bit about that and maybe
Okay.
tell
I didn't know if you're going
our
to mention
audience.
that or not. Here it
Oh,
is.
of
Yeah.
course. Why?
Yeah.
So there you go. So I want, I know that our listeners are probably listening to this and thinking, gosh, I wonder if Tim's got some materials or some way that I can connect with him further. And of course, having written a book and put all of your, your knowledge and your expertise onto paper means that somebody can pick that up and really get inside
Yeah,
of your
yeah.
brain.
It really the power to create. I wrote that, and I wrote it more from my faith position because I wrote it for pastors and business owners, that are God fearing folks, and I wanted to redefine what money was and how much we're serving it or it's serving us, and to redefine your relationship with money, and then what wealth is, redefining wealth. And I redefine wealth as creating values. Wealth is not something that comes to me. Wealth is something that comes from me. It flows from me. It's creating value to serve others. And the more value you create, and the more you serve others, the more you're going to attract of the recipient of that wealth. So it's a powerful book. And there's also another thing, and I'm not sure if this is for those that do have a business and you would like a fresh look at the business. We have what we call a growth plan. And the growth plan is that we take a look at your business and your strengths and weaknesses and kind of where you are revenue wise. And then we build a business model. It's very, very powerful, simple, but very powerful business model where we look at your capacity, and then we look at your 3-year plans, and then we'll recalibrate that 3-year goal with this new capacity. And then it's all built in the same call. Then we give you 8 to 10 step-by-step processes to get to that 3-year goal. And it's very valuable. It's very tangible. It's very tactical. And so for most businesses, it allows them to add another $100,000 of profit to their business just following the 8 to 10 steps that we tell them to take. So we normally sell it for $2,500 US.
Mhm.
We're going to offer it free. We're going to waive it. If they talk about Unlock and how much they love Tracy Wilson, leave her a 5-star review.
Thank
Then
you.
boom, if you email me, tim@redmondgrowth.com, or go to our website, redmondgrowth.com, and you follow through and you fill out this stuff, just say you love Tracy and you're a follower of her show, and boom, we'll waive that $2,500 fee.
Well,
And
thank you so much. That's very generous of you,
yeah,
and I'm sure that our listeners and viewers would love to take you up on that offer. And I hope I've got that website correct at the bottom of the
yeah,
screen. It's just
perfect.
running. Yep. All
Exactly.
right. So
That's exactly it. So yeah, go
there you
out
go.
there,
So head on over.
or you can email me directly, Tim at Redmond Growth, and I'll be glad to answer your questions or anything you've got there. That's fine.
Fantastic, wonderful. And guys, just to make sure that you mention Unlocked with Tracy Wilson, and Tim will make sure that you get that absolutely free.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
head on over to redmondgrowth.com to pick yourself up those things. And also on that website, right, they can also find the book for
Yeah,
them
they
to
can
be able to
find the
purchase
book,
it.
and if they
Mhm.
buy it, I can sign it. Now, if they're, they're folks in Australia, I would recommend getting a Kindle book. Just I, I think it would cost me about 2 house payments to send you guys a book.
It's not.
It may not be that bad, but anyway, but yeah, so it'd be a blast to connect with whoever wants to. So.
Fantastic. Well, there you go, guys. I think today's conversation has been really interesting, and I'm really pleased that that we got Tim onto the show because of his wealth of experience, and
Yeah.
I'm talking a broad experience across multiple different industries, and working with all the different types of customers, and again from all over the world in different industries, has been a real blessing for us to have him here today to talk about these things. And I think there's some key things that he's spoken about that I want to make sure that out of every show, I kind of go back and recap the things that I think you should take away. The difference between somebody being really successful and maybe spinning your wheels for some time is, like Tim said, you've got to have that grit, you've got to have that stamina, and getting used to the word no, but not letting that phase you. Just keep going, keep moving forward, because we didn't talk about it in this sense, but business is not a sprint, it's a marathon, and we just have to keep going. And most if you know anything about marathons, I know it a little bit because my husband has been training for one. But he says to me, if I can get to 27 miles, kilometers, whatever you want to call it. See, and now I'm showing I really don't know about marathons, but anyway, you get to that point. That's kind of the point where people usually start to get the wobbles and things start to go astray. That's what business is like. We all start out with a hiss and a roar and all excited, and then it peters out over time. So you want to make sure that you load yourself up, get good people around you, you stick to your guns, you build up your strength and your muscles around your energy, your brain, your mindset, that resilience, and your business acumen, and you get the right people to support you. I think those are all key things that Tim has spoken about today. And he gave you a bit of an insight into how he goes and he looks for opportunities where people have already, I'm going to say, done the hard yards, built these businesses up, but it's now time for them to let it go. So I hope you've enjoyed today's show just as I have. It's been a whole lot of fun, and it's been fun being here again with you guys on another episode of The Unlock Show. Tim, I want to ask you one last question before we wrap today's show up. What one piece of advice would you give to I'm going to say to a business owner who's been in business for less than 5 years? What's a piece of advice you would give them?
Okay, I'm going to get real personal because this is what just dropped in me here. I would pay attention to your communication, especially your communication to yourself. Now, I ask you this question. If you had a friend that spoke to you the way you speak to yourself, would they still be your friend? So if you had a friend that spoke to you the way you speak to yourself, would they be your friend? And so take it easy on the guy that's receiving these words. Be for yourself. Don't be against yourself. And your words are powerful. They frame your reality to a certain degree here. And I'm not going to get all metaphysical on you, but I'm just saying that, I want you to talk about your business with confidence and talk about your goals and talk about your abilities. And it's from a place of power. The first product you sell is not yourself, it's your state. that they buy into.
Mm.
Then they buy into you. Once they buy into your emotional state, then they buy into you. So I want you to emanate a real positive state where people are buying in to what you're doing. And I believe that you're going to make it big time. I'll see you at the top.
Awesome. That is a fantastic piece of advice. And on that note, I would love for us to have continue this conversation, but down that path, because I really, truly think that piece is so, so powerful. But we will leave that for another episode. So today I want to say thank you so much for being an amazing guest. It has been a lot of fun.
It's been great.
And
I loved it.
Valuable insights that you have shared today, and I really appreciate your time. So appreciate Tim's time, and I appreciate those of you that have tuned in and are listening to the Unlocked Show. So like I always say, go and live your life unlocked, because there is just no other way. And I'm going to see you guys on another episode of the Unlocked Show. Wednesdays and Fridays are the days that we go live, so 10 a.m. Brisbane time. Until then, have a fantastic week. Bye, guys.